Drop of Blood Teen Wolf, Part 2. The Alpha's Shadow. New Moon Prologue. After the bite, Scott McCall woke up breathing. That was the first mistake. The forest floor was cold beneath his back. Wet leaves clung to his clothes. The moon was still there, pale and watching as if it had never looked away. Nothing hurt. That scared him more than the pain ever could. He lifted his hand. No blood. No torn skin. No wounds where the Alpha's teeth had gone in. Only warmth. Only a strange, quiet warmth spreading through his chest. Scott stood up slowly. The forest felt different now. Not louder, closer. Every sound felt like it was happening inside his head. The wind between the trees. The insects. His own heartbeat. He wasn't alone anymore. Even though no one was there. The Alpha did not follow Scott home. It didn't need to. Scott walked through the streets of Beacon Hills while the town slept, unaware that something had already crossed its boundary. Porch lights flickered. A dog barked somewhere far away, then went quiet. Scott felt it. A pull. Like a thread tied around his spine, leading back into the forest. The Alpha wasn't chasing him. It was waiting. That was the rule. When Scott opened the door to his house, everything looked the same. That made it worse. The couch. The TV. The smell of detergent and old coffee. His mother's shoes by the door. Normal things. Things that should have made him feel safe. Instead they felt fragile. Like paper walls. Scott stood in the hallway for a long time listening. He could hear the refrigerator hum. The ticking clock. His mother's breathing from her room. Each sound landed too clearly. He went to the bathroom and stared into the mirror. His reflection stared back. Same face. Same eyes. But something behind them had moved in. And it wasn't leaving. Stiles Stilinski noticed the change before Scott said a word. Scott didn't flinch when a car honked too close. Scott didn't cough. Scott didn't breathe hard running up the school steps. But that wasn't what gave it away. It was the silence. Scott had always been nervous. Always apologizing. Always filling the space with words. Now he listened instead. That terrified Stiles. "You're doing that thing," Stiles said, half joking. "What thing?" "The not you thing." Scott didn't answer. Because he didn't know how. Beacon Hills High School was never quiet. Until it was. Scott walked through the hallway and felt hundreds of heartbeats moving around him like a tide. Lockers slammed. Laughter echoed. Shoes scraped the floor. Every emotion passed through him. Anger. Fear. Excitement. Jealousy. It was too much. He gripped the locker to steady himself. The metal bent. Not snapped. Bent. Scott pulled his hand away like it had burned him. No one noticed. That was how the Alpha wanted it. The Alpha did not rush. It never rushed. From the edge of town, from places no one thought to look, it watched Scott move through his new life. It watched him struggle to control his breathing. It watched him resist the urge to run. The Alpha understood something Scott didn't yet. Fear made the bond stronger. Confusion made it tighter. The Alpha did not want obedience. It wanted connectee. It happened during lacrosse practice. Scott didn't remember deciding to move. One second he was standing still. The next he was across the field, faster than thought, knocking another player to the ground. Bones cracked. Not his. The world froze. Scott heard the heartbeat stop for half a second, then continue. Alive. Barely. Coach shouted. Players backed away. Stiles ran toward him. Scott stared at his hands. They were shaking. Not from fear. From hunger. Derek Hale had felt it the moment Scott was bitten. The shift in the air. The pressure change. The quiet scream of a new connection forming. An Alpha was building again. And that meant death was coming. Derek didn't approach Scott as a friend. He approached him as a warning. "You were bitten," Derek said flatly. Scott denied it. Everyone did at first. "That wasn't an accident," Derek continued. "The Alpha chose you." Scott asked the wrong question. "Why me?" Derek answered with the truth. "Because you survived." Derek explained the rules. Scott. On him when it wanted. To feel through him. To reach into places Scott didn't know existed yet. "The Alpha doesn't make mistakes," Derek said. "If you're alive, it's because you're useful." Scott felt sick. Not from fear. From understanding. The Argents didn't need proof. They never did. Animals were turning up dead again. Too clean. Too precise. Bite patterns that didn't belong to anything natural. Allison Argent listened quietly as her family spoke in codes they pretended were normal. Silver. Mountain ash. Patrol routes. She didn't know Scott was involved. Yet. The Alpha didn't care who found out. Conflict made the pack stronger. The first time the Alpha called Scott, it didn't use words. It used pain. Scott dropped to his knees in his room, clutching his chest, gasping as something inside him twisted sharply toward the forest. A command without language. Come closer. Scott didn't go. That was his second mistake. The next morning, another student was bitten. Not killed. Initiated. The Alpha didn't punish Scott. It corrected him. That was the rule. Scott realized then what the Alpha was doing. It wasn't building a pack for strength. It was building one for reach. Students, athletes, outsiders, people who could never ask for. The bite wasn't power. It wasn't destiny. It was permission. Permission for the Alpha to move unnoticed through the school. The Alpha was spreading itself thin, on purpose. Because control didn't require closeness anymore. Only connection. Scott stood alone in the locker room one night, staring at his reflection as his eyes flickered gold. He finally understood the real horror. The Alpha didn't want to rule Beacon Hills. It wanted to live inside it. One heartbeat at a time. Scott survived the bite. Others would not survive the choice. Because the Alpha wasn't finished yet. And the school was just the beginning. The Alpha has started building its pack. The hunters are closing in. And Scott is running out of time. But the real question is no longer who gets bitten. It is who the Alpha will sacrifice next.